welcome back to the G&G channel. Today I have an actual DIY project for you, and this includes no printing, no taping. It's a really simple tutorial, but first, story time. So back when I first started G&G, sound off in the comments if you've been around G&G since then. Like, the very first thing that I ever released was this sweater wrap scarf type thing. It was actually like a ballerina type sweater, and the immediate response was not 100% positive. People hated it. I don't really know what it was about the design itself, if it was just too out there, it wasn't like a typical pattern. I'm not really sure what it was about it, but just the sight of it just made people mad. But right off the bat, I remember people calling it like the straight jacket sweater. There were comments like, oh, I guess anybody can be a designer now. It was rough, but I still added it to the group files anyway as a free pattern, and it's been there ever since. Occasionally you'll see them pop up in the group and everyone's like, what the is this? But even after all of the drama, after the first day of G&G, I powered through, and it's still one of my favorite things to sew. So in an effort to update all of our free patterns, I decided to start with this one because it was the first one. I need to get them all uploaded to the site. Group files are hard to find for some people. So you can find this tutorial on the G&G site. I will go ahead and link that in the description. You just need to download it for the cut chart, other fabric information, and I'm going to show you a quick tutorial on how to make it. Before we get started, I'm going to talk a little bit about the fabric that I'm using today. I decided to use this Sincerely Riley Sugar Pop sweater knit that I just got in, and it's so soft. I highly suggest sweater knit for this pattern just because when you use a fabric like cotton lycra that has a ton of recovery, it does tend to suck in at the arms and it's just not as comfortable. But obviously any knit will work. Fabric suggestions and requirements are in the tutorial to download. Let's get started with cutting. Okay, so in the tutorial, you will notice a cut chart, and you will cut 2 pieces out for the body of the sweater. These are folded over. Your pieces are more square when you unfold them, but you will need 2 of these pieces and 2 cuff pieces, and make sure when you cut that the stretch is going the correct way. It'll explain that in the tutorial. So now that you've cut your 4 basic pieces out, you're going to place the body pieces right sides together with the stretch going this way, and you're gonna sew down one short side. So now that you have this seam sewn on the 2 body pieces, you're gonna lay this sweater piece wrong sides up so you can see the seam. Now there are 2 different ways that you can finish the top and bottom long edges. First, you can just go ahead and hem. Like, you can turn over once, turn over again, like a 1/2 inch each time, and sew along the top, all the way along the top and all the way along the bottom. Or, this is what I like to do just to make it extra fluffy, is cut out 2 more pieces and sort of line it. So you're gonna cut 2 more body pieces out, sew it together like this, and then you're going to lay them right sides together and sew the top and the bottom. And I'll show you what I mean in just a second. So what I did is I cut 2 new body pieces out of a separate fabric and sewed them up the one short side, just like I did with this main mustard fabric. And I wanted to find a mustard plaid, but I couldn't really find any plaid that was mustardish. Mustardish, is that a word? So I then placed these 2 right sides together. Like you can see, I flipped this portion down so that the wrong side is facing the table. Here's the seam allowance. And then I just line up those seam allowances, and I'm gonna sew all the way along the bottom and all the way along the top to make kind of like a tube. The whole point is just to finish off the top and the bottom, whether you hem it or line it, that's completely up to you. I will tell you though that lining it will make the sweater fluffier. Okay, so if you lined it, you can now turn your tube right side out. And if you hemmed it, your top and bottom will now be hemmed. But if you lined it, you can see that where the lining is on this one, and it's sewn all the way to the end. The short ends are still open like this, and we will do that or fix that in just a minute. But first, we're going to go ahead and move on to the cuffs. Okay, before we sew our cuffs, I just wanted to check in and not rant, but maybe just explain a little bit. Cuffs are really hard to design and then assign them to a size. Because there may be someone who's making a size 20 whose wrists or forearms are smaller than maybe a size 14. So just know that cuffs are approximate. If you need to take off a little or cut them a little wider, that's totally up to you. A lot of it is preferred fit and what type of fabric you're using. If you're using something stretchier, you'll definitely want to take your cuffs in. If you're using something structured, you might want to cut them just a little bit wider. That's the beauty of sewing. Okay, so now we're going to take the cuff and we're going to fold it right sides together along this long edge here. And then we're going to fold it again in half down like this. And then we're just going to sew down this edge, and you're going to catch all 4 of these layers in there. Okay, so now that you have this edge sewn, you're going to go up where your raw edges are, and it doesn't matter if you go this way or this way, but you're going to turn it right sides out through one of these openings, and your cuff is now complete. But this is what I was talking about earlier with the fit of a cuff. You can go ahead and slide this on your arm and see if it's too tight or too loose. Mine feels like it's pretty good. And if it's too loose, you can turn it back right side or wrong sides out again, and you can sew it a little bit with a bigger seam allowance, and you can get the fit just right before sewing the other one. So now that we have both cuffs finished, we are going to now gather this unfinished edge of the body piece. And if you've lined it, you're going to gather both layers together. If you just have one layer, you just gather it as usual, and you will gather it so that it's the same length as the circumference of this cuff. So you want to make sure that you gather it close enough so it'll fit just around the end of the cuff. If you're new to sewing and you need some tips on gathering, I will link my baddie tutorial in the description. I added a little lazy trick in there. So now that the edge of your body piece is gathered, we're going to take it so that the right side is up, and it doesn't matter which way, if you lined it or if it's hemmed, you're just going to place it right sides up. And you're going to take your cuff piece and you're going to lay it on top of the body piece so that the seam is up right here. And you're going to first pin one end right sides together. I like to cover up the seam on the cuff just a little bit so that they overlap in the end. Make sure your layers are sorted out here. And then pin it or clip it into place. And then you're going to keep continuing pinning all the way around the cuff until you get to the end. And like I said, I usually just overlap the edge just a little bit and then pin that into place as well. And then once all your gathers are pinned all the way around your cuff, then you can go ahead and sew it. And then you're going to repeat all of those steps on the other side of the sweater. Once you get the cuff sewn, you can turn it right sides out again, and the end of your sweater should look like this. And it's just one long tube until you get to the end, and the other end looks exactly the same, and you're finished. That was so easy, right? I've actually learned quite a few new ways to wear this thing since we started doing this almost 4 years ago. So here they are. I hope you all love this little sweater DIY tutorial today. I love doing projects that are quick and fast, and this is just like the cutest little accessory to add to your winter coat or just wear by itself in the fall. And all you need is just a little bit of sweater knit. So thank you all for watching and sewing along with me today. Please click subscribe if you haven't done that already. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to follow G&G on all of our social media linked at the bottom of the description. Make sure you have your notifications turned on for next week. We have a Halloween double dose of videos coming, so make sure that you check back in next Thursday, and I can't wait to do all of this again. Bye.